Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and the day has come at last. Hot damn son of a bitch with a plate of pancakes. Let me tell you something. If someone ever comes up to you on the street that is really into One Piece for whatever reason and asks you, hey man, who do you think the most popular warlord is? You can tell them to shut up right there to their face, because the answer's Crocodile. Because ever since I started this goddamn series, all I've been getting is messages primarily focused on Crocodile's video. When's Crocodile's video, man? When are you gonna talk about Crocodile? Oh man, my man Crocodile, can't wait till you talk about him. Oh man, is Crocodile next? I need to know, Crocodile! I'm like, okay, damn, yeah. I mean, this was all decided by random lottery, by the way. In case you're curious, I wasn't just messing with you like, haha, they want the Crocodile video, I'll wait till the end. No, all random lottery. Crocodile just ended up getting the short stick. Buggy is next, and after him, Weevil, in case you're curious. But yeah, I don't know what it is, so let's just dive right in, because I don't know if it's just because he has a lot of style, if he's because he's the first, like, major villain of the series that actually posed a threat to Luffy and the Straw Hats. First villain to straight up defeat Luffy in combat, like, you know, just take him out, no question. He won. Yeah, so let's just go right into it. Let's talk a little bit about the meta first, though, like as the series as a whole. So throughout the East Blue Saga, there were enemies to face. There were villains. You had Buggy, you had Krieg, you had Arlong, but none of them really posed a major threat to the crew. They weren't as dangerous as they were built up to be. Don Krieg had, like, an entire pirate armada, but most of them were fucking scrubs that couldn't even barely hold a freaking cutlass. There's like 3 people on Don Krieg's crew that were kind of powerful. You know, Pearl, Geen, and Krieg himself. My point of the matter is, Luffy managed to take out Buggy, Krieg, and Arlong all by himself with sheer physical force. He got banged up a little bit, but nothing to really write home about. You know, Arlong, okay, he was pretty dangerous. You know, he had about 4 or 5 strong members on his crew, but nothing they couldn't handle. Okay, but now you get to Crocodile, right? And Crocodile was the first real villain in this series. He was this shadowy figure. He wasn't just an enemy of an arc. He was the enemy of a saga. That's such a cool word to say, saga. All throughout the Alabasta saga, the first main part of the Grand Line. So the Straw Hats arrive in the Grand Line. They have to go through Laboon's arc, Whiskey Peak, Little Garden, Drum Island, all arriving, all culminating in Alabasta. And the Alabasta arc itself was quite large. All the while, Crocodile's looming over this whole thing. He's the final threat. He's the one they're going to have to defeat to liberate the kingdom of Alabasta, and so, you know, Vivi can take her rightful place, and, you know, the rebellion is quelled. You know, that's Vivi's ultimate goal there. The first time we actually get to hear him or, you know, interact was during Little Garden, when he had that interaction with Sanji, you know, and you kind of get a glimpse of his devil fruit abilities. He, like, drains all the water out of a vase, and he's like, ooh. And in Whiskey Peak, here's the thing. We find out that his bounty was, we find out really, like, a lot about the Warlords. You know, Yosaku explained about the Warlords previously during the Arlong arc, but it's kind of like expanded upon here a little bit. We find out about, you know, the Warlords, and one of them is Crocodile, and he had a bounty of 81 million. Now, I understand 81 million's not that big right now. That's actually kind of chump change, but you have to think of 2 things. Number 1, the bounty is frozen when someone becomes a warlord. So it's not like having a low bounty as a warlord is something that's really, you know, reflecting their power. Bounty doesn't really reflect power in general, but it's not like you should think of Crocodile as a weaker warlord just because his bounty is lower, because bounties don't really mean anything when you get to warlord status and it's frozen. If anything, a low bounty actually shows that you're really fucking strong, because that means that when the government, you know, okay, we're going to issue you a bounty of 81 million. No, was it 80 million or 81 million? One of the two, whatever, it doesn't matter. 80 million or whatever, early on in your life, and then they freeze that to become a warlord. That's like you're more of a threat earlier on. You know, look at Doflamingo, who had like a bounty of like, he was like in the 300 millions before the government decided to freeze his shit and make him become a warlord. Doflamingo kind of blackmailed himself into a warlords. But yeah, I just wanted to cement in that. And also, back then, 80 million or whatever, that was like 4 times as much as Arlong's. That was like a huge deal back then. I was like, this guy shall not be fucked with. And he has all these people working under him. So it was pretty clear this is not the kind of guy that, you're just going to run up and beat and no problems. Everything's no problem solved. Luffy, you go. All right. So that was just the meta shit, just building up. Maybe that builds a little bit. And also people that maybe haven't been keeping up to date with One Piece in a while, it's a really big series. They might remember Crocodile as, he was the first, he was the first major villain they watched maybe on the 4Kids dub, or, actually, okay, I'll be honest with you, the 4Kids dub did not butcher Crocodile as much as they could have. He still makes really lame puns every now and then, but, I think he called Luffy, he's like, you're gonna be desert doo-doo after, it's pretty bad with the shitty puns and crap, but his voice was at least okay in the 4Kids dub, so maybe it's something like that. I don't know. All right, well, let's start off with the history, shall we? So, Crocodile actually aspired to become king of the pirates at one point in his life. Yes, he did. Now, we don't know a lot about his path. It's more of just been, mentioned rather than actually seen. We haven't actually saw, a flashback arc involving Crocodile, although that would be pretty cool. He was present during Goldie Roger's execution, and he went out to become the Pirate King. He made it all the way to the New World. He tried to take on Whitebeard, and that's the thing. I think it was shortly after he became a warlord, he tried to take on Whitebeard, and that's the thing that kind of follows him throughout his entire life, trying to kill Whitebeard, and he got his ass kicked. He got his ass kicked 4 ways to Sunday. I would have miss all Sunday. I'm sorry, that was a bad pun. I would have loved to see that, okay? And I hope we do get to see that someday when he took down Whitebeard. And that's the whole reason he wanted to break out of Impel Down. That's the whole reason, his entire goal, the entire time, from Impel Down to Marineford, helping Luffy, that's just incidental. He wanted his second shot at Whitebeard on how that went down. So after his crushing defeat at the hands of Whitebeard, he decided not to become the king of the pirates anymore. He kind of abandoned that dream in hopes of other ways of attaining power. One of these ways was Pluton, the ancient weapon, one of the 3 ancient weapons, along with Poseidon and Uranus. And he found out that it was in the kingdom of Alabasta. He started amassing an army, a proper, not just a pirate crew, an entire organization working under him, known as Baroque Works. And this it was huge. You had the officer agents that numbered Mr. 1 all the way to Mr. 13, and then you had the billions that directly served underneath the officer agents, and then you had the frontier agents officer agents was Mr. 1 to Mr. 5, and then frontier agents were Mr. 6 to Mr. 13, and then going on to the millions that were their subordinates. So there was a massive organization that had a lot of freaking manpower that basically ran the entire city that Crocodile ruled over in Alabasta, Rain Base. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. So he set himself up as Mr. Zero. That was his code name. People didn't even know, in the own organization, they didn't even know his identity. Crocodile had to sort of keep some duality going on here because he had to keep up his public face as a warlord, and he had to do what the government told him to do. The whole point of the warlord system was hire pirates that are really strong to try eliminate all the other pirates. That's the whole goal. And so what Crocodile had to keep this public face while living in Alabasta as the savior of the island. While the kingdom was kind of in ruins, he was their shining hope, and he defeated the pirates that would dare plunder the port cities, So that was the public face. That was the Crocodile that people knew. He was a hero, and people yes, Crocodile, he saved us yet again. However, Mr. Zero was his alter ego, the guy hiding in the shadow, Lord of Baroque Works. So I believe the only person that was aware of his identity was Nico Robin, Miss All Sunday. I don't know if the officer agents like Mr. 1 or Mr. 2 knew his identity. I don't think they did, and that was the whole point, trying to keep it a secret as much as possible. So he set this whole thing up. Baroque Works was in operation for years. I think well over 10 years by the time the story began, all right? So, he first met Nico Robin at age 24, but I think when Robin was 24, but I think he was in operations way before that. So this was a whole system, trying to get Pluton. So it's very parallel to Doflamingo, how he actually did this. I still think Doflamingo's still more of an evil bastard, but what Crocodile was, he set himself up as the hero of Alabasta. He had this city that he kind of ruled over called Rainbase, but the kingdom didn't really view him as anything threatening or anything like that. Meanwhile, through his subordinates, particularly Mr. 2, Bonclay, with the ability to clone him, the clone fruit, with the ability to make himself appear as if he was the king, Cobra, he made it seem like the kingdom was corrupt, that Cobra was a bastard, that he was like hauling in all this the boogie powder in order to steal all the rain from the surrounding towns. So setting up the kingdom as like this horrible oppression, that just trying to steal all the rain from the country, starting this horrible drought. Meanwhile, Crocodile, he's the cool guy. So that's pretty dastardly, but it's not as bad as actually taking over the kingdom and trying to turning all the citizens into toys and removing like their memories and shit. I think that was a little bit worse. And while Crocodile set up Cobra to be kind of like an evil guy, he didn't actually have Cobra go around and slaughter his own people. That was going a little bit too far even for Crocodile, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that was the similarities there. They were both kind of in control of a kingdom. You know what's funny? I don't know if we understand why Crocodile really wanted Pluton. I think it was like some vague reason, like I want Pluton to take over the kingdom or rule the world or further my own military power or something vague like that, but we didn't really get anything that's substantial, like I want to overthrow the world government, or I want to go and kill Whitebeard with Pluton. That's probably honestly the closest thing I can think of, because he don't like Whitebeard too much. Sorry, he don't like Whitebeard too much. Moving on, this is pretty much where the story picks up, where it connects back to the story. We have, he learns about the Straw Hats and everything like that, and then they raid Alabasta. They have the whole Alabasta arc there. The Straw Hats take on all the officer agents. Finally, Luffy fights against Crocodile at Rainbase. Crocodile manages to feed him with his Devil Fruit, which is the Suna no Mi, the Sand Fruit, and this is not the first Logia that Luffy has fought against. That would be Smoker. But it's certainly the first one that has, like, complete mastery over his Devil Fruit power. I think Crocodile even said it to Luffy. Like, it's not about coming up with, like, silly tricks or gimmicks with your Devil Fruit. It's really becoming, like, making it part of you. To the point where he can, like, turn into sand reflexively. This was shown a few times when he gets, like, shot in the face and he's not paying attention. During the time in Marineford, he gets his head fucking cut off by Doflamingo. He wasn't even paying attention to Doflamingo at the time. Gets his head cut off by Doflamingo, and it's just like, whatever, and he just, it just turns into sand. So he's truly mastered his Devil Fruit. So don't think of him, just because he was the first villain and he was like the first one of the Warlords to be taken out by Luffy, don't think he's weak. He's really not. It's just that at the end of the day, Luffy, he was underestimating Luffy, I feel, quite a bit. He was underestimating Luffy's abilities, and Luffy had a lot of help, like he did with Doflamingo. But yeah, if Crocodile could figure out how hockey works, which who knows, he very well might have in the course of the time skip. If Crocodile figures out hockey, which I think the Conqueror's hockey would fit him quite nicely. If he did, then he would be on par with as many, like, all the strong top-tier characters right now. And his perfect melding with his Logia fruit, I think, even kind of makes it, quite powerful to begin with. On top of that, he also has this badass gold hook that he carries around. That's not really a good image of it, but whatever. The badass gold hook. And it's funny, because when he got incarcerated and impaled down, for whatever reason, they didn't take this off of him. I don't know why. I don't know why they I guess he was going to eternal hell, so they were just like, all right, whatever, you can keep it, who cares? But, he has a dangerous weapon in his cell, whatever, I don't know. So that's his trademark weapon. I don't know, but I like to think that it's because of Whitebeard that he lost that arm, because we see him as a kid. Oda drew him as a child. We'll be getting back to this image in a second here, but Oda drew him as a child, and he's not like missing his hand from birth or anything like that, so he lost his arm at some point in his life. I like to think Whitebeard was the one that sliced it off, took his Bicento and just like fucking child and just kicked him in the fucking ocean. It's like, come back in 10,000 years or whatever when you're ready. But yeah, so that's his weapon. You can take the top half of the hook off, reveals like a poison-tipped hook there. Now, his weakness, the Suna no Mi, I mean, the weakness of all Devil Fruit users in general is water, but he's a little bit more susceptible to water, because normally how it works with Devil Fruits is that running water, like rain and stuff, doesn't hinder the Devil Fruit power. So getting rained on or getting squirted with like a squirt gun, that's not gonna like harm you. If you get water on your skin, it's not like you're gonna be, you won't be like Luffy won't be able to stretch if he's like covered in water. That's not how it works. It's about like large standing bodies of water. So even if it's something from like a bathtub all the way to like, getting dunked in the ocean, that'll take away your Devil Fruit powers, all right? But Crocodile is the one that's susceptible to this in both ways. So, obviously large body of waters will make it so he can't turn into sand, but if he just gets water on him, so if he gets drenched, the sand will stick together and he can't convert to sand. He can't like scatter his body. So if he gets covered in water, then you can actually get some hits out on him. So all types of water are harmful to his Devil Fruit. I didn't talk about his Devil Fruit, like what abilities it can do in general. There's so much to discuss about Crocodile. Let me get a drink here really quick, because talking about this guy makes me parched as hell. Who would win in a crossover battle, Gaara or Crocodile? I think King did a crossover battle with them a long time ago. But yeah, so his Suna no Mi powers, basically the ability to control sand, turn into sand, but also he can drain the moisture out of anything he touches, I believe, with his right hand. So he, let's say, grabs a person, drains them all out, turns them into mummies, basically. It's actually rather one of the more horrific things to watch in the One Piece series, how Crocodile can just like grab like Luffy by the neck and like... and, turn him into a freaking emaciated mummy. And then just, toss him to the ground and boom. Its power also works on non-living things. Obviously, this will happen if he touches, like, something that actually has water in it, like a human or, like, a plant or something. But even if he were to grab something inanimate, like a rock or a stone or something like that, whatever, he can actually drain it out of that to turn that into sand to make more sand to manipulate. So it doesn't matter what it is. He can either drain the moisture out of it to turn it into, like, a mummy, or he can, like, turn it into sand itself to make more sand for him to manipulate. If you fight him again, like, long story short, fucking run if you encounter him in a desert. Actually, you're dead, okay? You can't run away. He can make, like, quicksand and, like, giant waves of sand and shit. In his final battle with Luffy in the tomb, he managed to make, like, solid blades out of sand. That was pretty cool. His trademark ability is Sobbles, which summons a sandstorm that just blows away everything around him in a huge tornado. That would be his trademark technique. But yeah, with his powers and like, reflexively turning into sand and stuff like that, he's a hard person to match unless you have that water advantage there. So it's a pretty simple weakness, but if you don't exploit it, you're pretty much fucked, essentially. Either that or utilizing Sea Prism Stone in some way, like with nets or Sea Stone bullets, which we know those exist now, so that's cool, I guess. But other than that, you're pretty much shit out of luck for dealing with Crocodile. During Marineford, he helped out a lot. He managed to save Ace on one occasion, not because he wanted Ace to survive or anything like that, just because he didn't want the Marines to get their way, so that, they were about to execute Ace, and then he, cuts them. He stood up to fucking Aka Inu. When they didn't, to let Luffy and Jinbei get away. He stood up to Aka Inu. And I found this funny. I always thought this was going to be the case with Aka Inu versus Crocodile. So I believe Crocodile uses his sand powers as like a blade and like cuts Aka Inu in half. Now Aka Inu doesn't matter, he just turns into magma and that doesn't matter. But I always thought because like when put under such intense heat as magma is, wouldn't like sand form together into glass? Because isn't that how you make glass? Isn't that like how that works? When like there's certain beaches in the world where like lightning strikes a beach, it makes like glass when you superheat it at a high enough temperature. Isn't that how that works? I'm pretty sure. So if Crocodile like cut him in half, I didn't think that would work because the sand would immediately like turn into glass and he wouldn't be able to manipulate it anymore. I mean, that's maybe going a little bit too realistic with it, but I always thought that's the way it would go down there. Because just magma is like insanely hot. It's hard to imagine anything could cut Aka Inu in half outside of like another really super powerful devil fruit without it being like melted or, you know, turned into something else. Last thing I'm going to discuss here, and it's something I save for the end because I'm pretty sure I'm going to make another video about this, because this is a big one. This is kind of one of the big mysteries of the One Piece universe, so if you love Crocodile, you of course know what this is. So, when he was being released from Impel Down, when Ivankov and Inazuma and Luffy were trapped in level 6, really awesome scene too, when Crocodile rocks out from the shadows and he's like, let me out of this place and I can open up a hole in the ceiling for you. And Luffy's like, Crocodile! You know? In order to get him to cooperate, and Luffy's like really afraid of like, you know, we can't let this guy out, Eva. He's gonna like, do you know what he did? Do you know what I had to go through to like, take this guy out last time? And Ivankov's like, oh, don't worry about it. I know his weakness. I know it very well. And Crocodile responds with like, don't you dare say anything. That's just a weird reaction from him, you know? Like, let's back up and think about this for a second. Okay, so Crocodile, it's Crocodile, Ivankov, Luffy, and Inazuma. That's like the only immediate group that's around them in level 6. Jinbei's there too, but whatever. Just him and like the other prisoners. And Crocodile, even though there's like really nobody around, maybe he didn't want Luffy to hear because Luffy's his enemy, but he's just like, oh, if you even mention a word of that, Ivankov. You know, so it's something that he really doesn't want people to know about. He doesn't want anybody to know about. Even if it's like not even like a lot of people around him, he doesn't want to know about that. He doesn't want like people to know. So what is this secret? Ivankov states it's like back when he was a rookie. I know his past quite well. And so it's not going to be something, I don't think it's going to be something like, you know, oh, maybe Crocodile was a revolutionary, or maybe he was part of this group, or maybe he did this. No. Because Crocodile was seriously, like, somewhat embarrassed, or, like, he was taken aback. Like, he's the kind of guy that doesn't let a lot of people boss him around, but he totally let Ivankov boss him around, provided that he didn't reveal that secret. So, the common belief here is that Crocodile is going to turn out to be, he's going to turn out to be a woman, right? Like, or at least he was a woman to begin with. And that's why he knows Ivankov, obviously. Ivankov turned him into a man. Now, the debates on this is because we see him as a child. Oda drew him as a child. But this image isn't really gender specific. It's kind of he's kind of androgynous here. You know, you can't really tell either way if it's if he's a boy or a girl here. Now, like I said, I don't know if that's it exactly, but it sounds like the kind of thing that he would be really, you know, that would be like the kind of thing, like, don't let anyone know about this. I can't let that ruin my reputation. If anybody else finds out about this. Now remember, Ivankov's devil fruit power, the Horm fruit, it doesn't just change sex. You can do other things too. There's been a theory I saw around that maybe that he's a lot younger than he really is, or maybe he's a lot older than he really is, and, you know, Ivankov used his ability to turn him, you know, make him younger, make him older, something along those lines. I don't really know where it's going, but if it involves Ivankov, it has to be good. It has to be juicy, right? Like, if it was like, I don't know, like Dragon coming out and saying, I know some secrets about Crocodile. I mean, it would be a big deal, but it wouldn't be like, whatever. But if Ivankov comes out and says, I know some dirt on Croco Boy, it's like, oh, what is this shit now? Do tell. So leave your comments below, I guess, on what you might think it is. Like I said, I'm going to go into more detail with this in a full video, as well as going into a bunch of theories. I'm going to try to give credit where credit is due, too, on who comes up with these theories, because I'm not this fucking clever. But that'll be the case. That'll be a video coming up. We're still going to do, I'm trying to maybe get that out later this week. We're still going to do the one Warlord per week. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I think I covered everything with Crocodile. A lot of stuff to go on about, but let me leave a comment below on that theory, and also why you why you love him so much. Why do you think he's like the best warlord, or the most popular warlord? Leave a comment about that below. And I certainly hope he appears later in the series. We saw him at the end of the war in the post-war arc. He was just on some random island with Mr. One, just chilling out, reading a newspaper. So he's going to appear again in the series. I hope he's in the new world. Look to see from Croco Boy in the future. Next video will be on Buggy D. Clown. I'm sorry, I meant Buggy the Clown, not Buggy D. Clown. That would be... Oh, wait.